You need to watch this if you care about global conflicts. The world is witnessing yet another humanitarian crisis unfold, and it is imperative that we stay informed and engaged. The situation in Goma, a city in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, is deteriorating rapidly, and the international community must pay attention. What's happening in Goma, DRC is critical right now. This city, nestled in the eastern part of the country, has become a flashpoint of conflict and violence. The M23 rebel group, a notorious armed faction, has launched a series of aggressive attacks, plunging the region into chaos. Goma, a city of 2 million in the Democratic Republic of Congo, is under severe threat from the M23 rebel group. Intense fighting erupted overnight, and the once bustling streets are now scenes of devastation and fear. The local population is caught in the crossfire, with many fleeing their homes in search of safety. The M23 rebels, known for their brutal tactics, have been advancing towards Goma with alarming speed. The Congolese army has been valiantly defending the city, but the situation remains precarious. Intense fighting erupted overnight as the Congolese army repelled an M23 advance on the city. Casualties are still unknown, and the situation is dire. The sound of gunfire and explosions has become a grim backdrop to daily life in Goma. The aftermath of the battles is evident on the streets of Goma. Buildings have been reduced to rubble, and the air is thick with smoke. The Congolese army, though outnumbered and outgunned, has managed to hold off the M23 rebels for now. However, the cost has been high. With many soldiers and civilians losing their lives, the city is on edge, with residents fearing that the next attack could come at any moment. The civilian population is bearing the brunt of this conflict. Families are being torn apart, and the humanitarian situation is worsening by the hour. Emergency services are overwhelmed, and there is a desperate need for medical supplies, food, and clean water. The international community must act swiftly to provide aid and support to those affected by this crisis. Yesterday, the DRC severed diplomatic ties with Rwanda, accusing them of supporting the M23 rebels. This move has further escalated tensions in the region. The DRC government claims that Rwanda has been providing logistical and military support to the M23 rebels, a charge that Rwanda vehemently denies. The severing of diplomatic ties has led to protests and demonstrations in both countries, with citizens demanding an end to the violence. The accusations against Rwanda have sparked outrage among the Congolese population. Protests have erupted in several cities, with people taking to the streets to voice their anger and frustration. The situation is volatile, and there are fears that the conflict could spill over into neighboring countries, further destabilizing the region. This escalation follows the killing of 2 UN peacekeepers by M23 on January 24th. The UN peacekeeping mission in the DRC, known as MONUSCO, has been working tirelessly to protect civilians and restore peace. However, the loss of these peacekeepers has dealt a severe blow to their efforts. The international community has condemned the attack, calling for justice and accountability. The UN peacekeepers have been patrolling the conflict zones, trying to maintain order and provide a sense of security to the local population. Their presence is crucial in preventing further atrocities and ensuring that humanitarian aid reaches those in need. However, the challenges they face are immense, and the situation remains highly volatile. The conflict has already claimed over 200 civilian lives in M23-controlled areas. The toll on human life is staggering, and the suffering of the affected communities is unimaginable. Many have lost their homes, their loved ones, and their sense of security. The international community must come together to address this crisis and provide the necessary support to those in need. Internationally, the UN is evacuating non-essential staff from Goma and holding emergency talks. The situation is being closely monitored, and efforts are being made to find a diplomatic solution to the conflict. The UN is also coordinating with humanitarian organizations to ensure that aid reaches the affected areas as quickly as possible. Countries like France, the UK, and the US are advising their citizens to leave immediately. The embassies have issued travel warnings, urging their nationals to avoid the conflict zones and seek safety. The international community is on high alert, and there are concerns that the situation could escalate further, leading to a broader regional conflict. The exodus of people from Goma is a stark reminder of the human cost of this conflict. Families are packing their belongings and leaving their homes, unsure of when or if they will be able to return. The roads leading out of the city are filled with people seeking refuge, and the airports are crowded with those trying to escape the violence. Over 400,000 people have been displaced in 2025 alone due to this conflict. The refugee camps are overflowing and the conditions are dire. Many of the displaced are women and children, who are particularly vulnerable to exploitation and abuse. The international community must step up its efforts to provide shelter, food and medical care to these displaced populations. Hospitals in Goma are overwhelmed, struggling to cope with the influx of wounded and sick. The medical staff are working around the clock, but they are running out of supplies and resources. The situation is critical, and there is an urgent need for international assistance to support the healthcare system in Goma. Human Rights Watch warns of escalating risks to civilians. The organization has documented numerous human rights abuses committed by both the M23 rebels and the Congolese army. Civilians are being caught in the crossfire, and there are reports of extrajudicial killings, sexual violence, and forced recruitment of child soldiers. The international community must hold those responsible accountable and ensure that justice is served. This crisis is adding fuel to the DRC's long-standing humanitarian disaster. The country has been plagued by conflict and instability for decades, and the current situation in Goma is exacerbating an already dire situation. Humanitarian organizations are working tirelessly to provide aid, but the needs are immense, and the resources are limited. The international community must increase its support to address this crisis and help the people of the DRC rebuild their lives. The M23 rebels, formed in 2012, have a long history of violence and instability. They claim to protect the Tutsi population in eastern DRC, but their actions have caused widespread suffering and displacement. The group has been accused of committing numerous atrocities, including massacres, rapes, and forced recruitment of child soldiers. The international community must take a firm stand against the M23 rebels and support efforts to bring them to justice. The Tutsi population in eastern DRC has faced discrimination and violence for decades. The M23 rebels claim to be their protectors, but their actions have only brought more suffering to the region. The international community must work to address the root causes of this conflict and promote reconciliation and peace among the different ethnic groups in the DRC. However, they're accused of exploiting the region's mineral resources. The DRC is rich in minerals, including gold, diamonds, and coltan, which are essential for the global electronics industry. The M23 rebels have been accused of illegally mining these resources and using the profits to fund their operations. The international community must take action to stop the illegal exploitation of the DRC's resources and ensure that the benefits of these resources are used to support the development and well-being of the local population. With alleged backing from Rwanda, which denies these claims. The Rwandan government has repeatedly denied any involvement with the M23 rebels, but the accusations persist. The international community must conduct a thorough investigation into these claims and hold those responsible accountable. The stability of the region depends on finding a resolution to this conflict and addressing the underlying issues that have fueled the violence. Stay informed, and let's hope for peace. The situation in Goma is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the importance of international solidarity. The world must come together to support the people of the DRC and work towards a future where peace and stability are the norm, not the exception. Let us all do our part to raise awareness, provide support, and advocate for a peaceful resolution to this crisis.